Welcome to this episode of the Successful Encore Career Podcast, presented by Employment for Seniors, with support from Nationwide Insurance, InnoSource, and the Central Ohio Area Agency on Aging. I'm Brett Johnson, supporter of Employment for Seniors, host of this program, and a former member of the EFS Board of Trustees.
And I'm Carol Ventresca, Employment for Seniors Executive Director. Listeners, you have heard us discuss the concept of Encore Career. You know, I love this term because it encompasses so many wonderful ideas of how older adults can transition into a new life phase. You know, it is not limiting. Our world is our oyster. We do not have to retire. We can just move into something new and wonderful. So today we are welcoming Gail Hogan to our podcast. Many of our Central Ohio listeners have known Gail for years in her work at our local NBC affiliate, WCMH TV. Now Gail is following a new path. At times she's still in the public realm, but she also has her behind the scenes roles. And thanks so much today for joining us today, Gail. We are looking forward to hearing more about your Encore career.
It is my pleasure. Thank you both for having me.
You bet. Could you give us a little overview of your background and the work you did at the station? You had a successful career.
How far back do you want to go? No.
As far
Exactly.
I probably have 5 hours worth of digital tape here. We're good. So wherever you want to go with it. But you had a great career, a very successful career in the Central Ohio market.
I had a great run in Central Ohio. I never had to move. And for people in broadcasting, that's huge.
It is.
I was able to stay here, get married, raise a family, and still be able to do what I love and enjoy. And it started in radio in 1981 and transitioned over the years to TV, back to radio. But most of my time was spent at NBC4, where I was there probably 22 years and retired in 2014 from there.
That is incredible. And as you said, just to be able to stay in the market.
Yes.
That's not usual.
I don't think people really understand what that means, really, unless you're in the broadcast world. But news directors get tired of the same people, or they think if we change faces will improve ratings, or this person's too old, or there's so many myriad of reasons why you could leave the market, or then some people want to move up to bigger and better things. And even though I had the opportunity, I knew what I had in Columbus. It's a great town. We all live here. We know that. And I knew it would be a great place to raise children. So I made that decision.
Right.
Staying here.
Right. Which is truly something that our Encore careerists, our clients at Employment for Seniors, that's an issue that they had to deal with during the recession. Okay, I can still work, but I'm going to have to move to Iowa or someplace else because the economy really fell here in Columbus for the first time in those early 2000s. And so those were issues that we were dealing with. So the fact that many were able to stay made a big difference.
That's great.
Okay, so Gail, Encore careers can take on a lot of different paths. For some people, it's working in a nonprofit or supporting a community group. It may be for a regular paying position. It could be for volunteering. But one thing that we're seeing is that boomers are really kind of biting right into this notion of giving back and doing something that is of their passion, that really means a difference to them, makes work fun, makes it really worth being in that new position. So would you mind sharing with us your thoughts on the path that you followed in looking at, okay, I've done enough of this, I want to do something else?
And that's really true. I think, I don't know how it is for other folks, but for me, it's been wonderful that I have loved everything I've done. Most people have a job here or there that they can really say that they loved. No matter what job I had, I loved. So when I did retire, I don't think I was looking for something because I didn't enjoy what I was doing, but I was looking for something different. And I was looking for something that would allow me more time for me. I was at that time in my life. And so I have worked tirelessly with the American Heart Association since 1988, when I had my first experience with sudden cardiac arrest. And as a heart disease survivor, it became important for me to empower women, especially because I found going through the process how there was discrimination toward women. And not consciously necessarily, but they just weren't doing research on women. It was like, let's research the men and apply it to women, even though we are totally different sexes.
Yes.
So I pushed for that education and awareness for women. Along the way, I found myself working with local hospitals. And so when I retired, I thought, this would be really nice if I could work with, my doctors and share my passion and maybe actually get some pay for it.
Yes. Well, and part of that change may not be so much that you're trying to get away from something, but to reestablish your skills, your experience, your knowledge in a different forum. Because just as you said, the producers might get tired of people on air. Well, maybe you're getting tired of some of the producers and want to go and do something else and sort of like wind your own way through as opposed to what somebody else is looking for.
Well, heart education's been my passion for years. So now I took a proposal to Ohio State after we'd worked together through the Heart Association and through NBC4 on different projects. And I said, here's what I think I bring to the table and can do for you. Do you want to try to partner together and see what we can come up with? Because I'm a big believer that you can make your own opportunities.
Right.
And you have to sit down and think about what those opportunities might be, but you can make your own opportunities.
And to go along with that, I think not only just to think it through what they could be, but also to do the research, to really kind of prepare yourself and make sure that you've got all the tools that you need to make those opportunities happen. And I think that that's sometimes where people shortchange themselves. They don't realize that doing a little bit of homework is really helpful. So good. Okay.
Yeah. Let's talk about your educational background. How did it prepare you for your work in TV, as well as opportunities to help you build your TV career and your next career as well, too?
What if I told you that it really didn't?
It's okay.
I think that's very common, though. It is, yeah.
I mean, I went to school in the late 70s in broadcast journalism, to which my father said, please take typing classes because I have no idea where you're going to end up. Really, women in the late 70s were not doing this. I think Jessica Savage was on the air, Barbara Walters, nationally. It just wasn't like it is today. It's, prolific, but it wasn't then. And so the classes I took weren't that many either, So we learned a lot, not just me, but my counterparts. We all learned a lot on the set, on the air, in the studio. It was on the job training for everything. But I did take speech class, and I ended up realizing, because I had a focus on journalism, that I was really good at speech. And in fact, they were going to give me a big whole chunk of scholarship money if I would be on the debate team. And I thought, well, maybe I should rethink this major.
That's
maybe
interesting.
I should, go from journalism to maybe broadcast journalism and bring some of the speech and combine it with the journalism. And so that's what I did, but hadn't I not taken just a class to take a class in communications, I would not have ended up there. So,
and having come from Ohio State, and I'm a firm believer in lifelong learning, I always said it doesn't matter what you're taking, you're going to get little bits and pieces that are going to keep that have rubbed on you and you're going to keep using your whole life.
Or that you didn't even know were going to have a huge effect on the rest of your career. Exactly. I mean, that's amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's an important part that you need to look back on yourself, looking at, okay, I learned this a long time ago, or it's like, I know this already. I need to take advantage of it.
But I think the other way that I learned things, I learned in school, obviously, and I had a bachelor's degree in broadcast journalism, which still makes me laugh because I'm like, where are those courses on my sheet? Maybe there's one. I see a radio class.
Exactly.
But when you learn on the job and you have teachers all along the way. And you should take advantage of those people who agree to be mentors.
Right.
And even if they don't seem to be mentors at the time, you might be emulating someone and watching how they do things without them even knowing it. But then there are the mentors that you really pull aside and say, can I have some advice on this? Or you've been here a long time, or, would you look at my tape and give me some pointers? Or there are, teachers all along the way that I think we all need to take advantage of.
Yeah.
And to not just stop doing that when you get out of school. That was the biggest surprise that I had when I started here at Employment for Seniors working with adults. Because having been on campus for 30 years, you have this huge network and the ability to learn whatever you want to learn. It's there. If I didn't actually have to sit in a class, I could talk to whoever the expert was on campus to learn that way. But starting with clients at Employment for Seniors, I realized that most baby boomers got whatever the degree could be. It was high school or college, whatever program they were in, and then they stopped. They didn't really learn something new. They went into their job, learned what they had to learn for that particular job, and then their life took other paths. They had kids, they had community things, And so they really weren't learning new skills, or if they were, they couldn't identify them very well. So they were creating what skills that could be transferable skills into a new position, but they really didn't have a good command for how do I show that to an employer or to a contractor or to an organization that I could bring value to them.
That makes a lot of sense because people don't necessarily look at it that way. Or you're right, or they just kind of stop learning. And that's a sad thing at any age, that we don't look for a hobby where we learn things, or even through our children, grabbing on to coaching opportunities or volunteer opportunities or anything where you're going to find yourself learning more things.
Exactly. And I think that that's going to make us successful Encore careerists too. Right. Because we have learned these things if we could just learn how to prepare ourselves to make those next steps. So, okay. Well, to get a little bit more into what we were talking about, I wanted to really sort of hone in with you, the steps that you took and the people that you had an opportunity to meet to see yourself as an entrepreneur, to really go in and do this next step to create your own business and to have, it's one thing to work at the folks at the hospital when you're a volunteer, but then to actually go and say, I have this idea and I want you to pay me for this idea. It's a whole new ballgame. So are there some people that you met along the way that helped you through that?
Always. And actually, I told Carol earlier that I feel like I had two Encore careers, because the first time I left NBC4 in 2004, I went to work for a media training company, and I enjoyed it, but it wasn't creative. It was a lot of the same things over and over. The different part was the different companies that you would be teaching media training to. So I put my creative hat on, and walking my dog, I came up with the concept for a talk show, and that the way I would pay for the talk show is that people pay to be on the show. So it becomes advertainment, which was not a term. It is a term now, but back then I didn't even know how to describe it to people. But when I came up with the idea, I know I came and told my husband, and he looked at me and he said, are we going to lose the house?
Is that legal in television?
So the bottom line was, I think through osmosis, I had started to learn business through the media training company. Right. I learned marketing and things that I never did in television.
Right.
And I was learning how to do sales. And so as I developed this idea, though, I needed to find out really, how does sales work in TV, and how do I go talk to people, and what do I need to do to make people want to spend their money with my project? Boy, are there a lot of people out there that came to help me. And they were friends that I had met throughout the years, some, that I hadn't seen in a while or really hadn't had much of a relationship with, and others I'd known for a long time. And one I didn't know at all, and now we're almost best buds, because through this whole transition, we just became very good friends and are to this day. So it's just other people told me to talk to other people, and I would talk to those people, and they would suggest other people, and you just got little, grains of salt from everybody, and pretty soon you had a mountain.
Right. I've said I'm sort of the poster child for an Encore career. Having come from 30 years at the university, suddenly now I'm running a business. Now, how did that happen? But you learn along the way. When I was doing budgets at Ohio State, I was talking to the accountant every day going, I don't understand this. So I took accounting classes. I was in continuing education. Well, guess what? We did our own marketing for our programs. And so little by little, you start learning all those tools, and lo and behold, I'm here.
But isn't it funny what you do learn along the way that you didn't even necessarily look to learn or seek to learn, but it just sort of happens because of where you are. But then the key is to take advantage of the fact that you're learning.
Exactly. The best mentor I ever had was one of the faculty members who I worked with at Ohio State. He wasn't my advisor, but I worked for him. And I had an opportunity to do an internship in Washington. So I actually spent a semester working in Congress. So I'm talking to him about this, going, should I do this? Should I do this? And he always said, when an opportunity comes to you, it's not going to come twice. So you say yes, and then you take a deep breath and figure out how you're going to make it work. Because it's not going to come back at the second time.
That's a good good thing to learn. I like that.
You just keep moving and praying along the way.
So that was the first Encore. The second Encore was then I established this talk show, and it worked. And then I took it to NBC, and it's called Daytime Columbus now. Your podcast listeners may be familiar with it, and it's still on the air. And I just thought of this not too long ago, I kind of take pride in the fact that now there are 3 people with jobs because of something that I created.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm gone from it, but there are people earning income and because of an idea that I had and created. So.
And doing great work. And it's, yes, and I thank you for focusing on employment for seniors and featuring us many times.
Of course, on Daytime, yeah.
Yes.
Carol was a frequent guest. We loved that.
Yes, and thank goodness Robin still likes me coming back. So, it makes a difference. But for a small agency like mine, it's huge. It is absolutely huge. I mean, I can't afford to buy time on programs, but Gail took pity on me.
Stop. You had good information to share, and that's what I say to people all the time.
That's right.
Journalism is just information. You're just sharing information. True. Correct information. Truthful information.
Yes.
But information. So then the second encore was when I finally did leave Daytime, and that was in 2014. That's when I went then to Ohio State Ross Hart Hospital and said, the work that we've done, can we kind of take a look at that? And is there a place here for me? And here's what I can bring to the table, So, and a big part of it has to do with that I'm a survivor. I have a story that,
right,
with everyone else has a story, but they understand that I understand them because we've all gone through a lot of the same things.
Exactly. Are there bits and pieces of this new position that you're doing that are direct relationship to what you were doing at the station? I mean, it is that notion of giving back and of teaching and compelling people and educating people.
And it's a good platform to teach. I mean, through the Heart Association, where I volunteered for years, we can do so much. But when you have a university the size of Ohio State with a website and different ways that you can get the message out, it's really empowering to know that you do a patient profile and you can post that patient profile on the website, and there's lots of people who view it to either know that they're going to go through the same procedure and this is what happened to this person and these are some of the outcomes and these are things to look for and prepare for. So you really feel like you're impactful, when you do those things.
Wonderful.
You hear a lot more stories about 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds doing, I guess at that point you could call it career transitions, but they find that little project they want to do, but it turns into this and turns into this. So when you did your transitions, you're at a different stage of life. I'm not going to go into age, but it's 20, 30 years more than those. What advice would you give in regards to looking at that as a 50-year-old and knowing that that career transition? What did you encounter that you were scared of or that you knew you could do? It's a different stage of life.
But I wasn't scared. It was like, if I'm going to do it, I better do it now.
Do it now.
This is kind of the mindset that I had. And I find that with many of my other friends. I have friends that are a bit younger than I am. And they're at that point where, they've done something for so long or they just feel like they need to change. And they're like, this is my last hurrah. Now, it may be the last full-time hurrah because I don't see all of these folks that I'm referring to ever really not doing anything because they've been doing something all their life. But they're talking about one last big thing I can do. And that's kind of how I was. What last thing, can I do? Hang my hat on, feel like I can really make a difference, all those things. So I was looking at it though as opposed to them morphing into other things. I'd be like, okay, well, this might be the last big thing that I do. And then I'll do smaller things. But that was like, let's just do this. Let's take that chance. What have you got to lose?
All right.
Exactly. And, Encore.org is the organization that has been tracking this phenomenon for a long time. It started out as a group called Civic Ventures. And at that point in time, this was before the recession in early 2000s, they were saying, we've got, millions of baby boomers who are all going to leave the workforce and we're going to be really missing all that information. What are these people going to do? Let's put them into volunteer positions and they can help the community. They can help kids in schools. They can help the hospitals. They can help churches or whatever. Well, lo and behold, boomers are not stupid, and we know we have skills and we can do things, but we also want to be paid. And so it quickly did a little loop around and started became Encore.org. And so they do focus on not just volunteering, but on regular work. What's interesting, they reported that 4.5 million people between the ages of 50 and 70 are already doing an Encore career. But another 21 million are coming up behind us. interesting. Those are huge numbers. And I think that we see a lot of those individuals coming through our office, people who still want to contribute, who have lots of skills they want to use, but they may want more flexibility. They want to be a little bit more in charge of where they're going with their skills and the tasks. But many of them see barriers. Many people that we see can't financially not be working. They're really not in a position, and Social Security is not going to make it. They may not have specific pensions. They raised kids. Goodness knows they don't have savings. So there's a huge financial issue that it's going on. Did you experience any of those barriers? Not necessarily financial, but people telling you even today, well, Gail, this gentleman over here can do that for us. Or, well, we're looking for somebody younger because they know technology better. Or, any of those kinds of things that were out there.
I have to say, I really didn't. Now, they may say it behind my back. I really don't know.
Yes. Well,
but I don't know. I don't think I went into anything that I didn't think I could do.
Right.
And, and honestly, you do have to sell yourself, no matter what age, but as an older person, you might not have some of the skills that the younger folks have, but you also have different type of skills that they don't have.
Right.
It was interesting because we're talking about Encore and the things that you run across as a barrier. My husband, after being a judge for 24 years, went back to the prosecutor's office, and he didn't know anything about technology. He didn't even have a smartphone. And he had a secretary, and he had a bailiff, he had a court reporter. He had all this staff as a judge, so he didn't do that. Now he had no one. But one of the reasons why he was hired back was because he could bring all this institutional knowledge to these young people, and he was training them. And they put him with a young person for every trial so that he could teach them how to do a trial. They could teach him how to do some of the computer work. And in some instances, they just said, we'll just do it. But that was a barrier for him, but he didn't make it a barrier. And his employer didn't see it that way. And that was kind of key, too. You have to have employers understand, okay, this person's bringing this to the table. They might not have all the resources we'd like them to have, but how can we pair them up with the younger folks so that we make it work for everybody?
Exactly. When the movie The Intern came out with Robert De Niro, everybody goes, "Oh, wasn't that?" I said, "I thought it was wonderful."
Great movie.
Because it is true, and I didn't necessarily agree with all of the notion of that movie, but it did show an example of how an older generation and a younger generation can work together. We have 5 generations now, 5 age groups in the workplace. And oftentimes our job seekers are being interviewed by somebody who looks like their granddaughter.
Right.
But again, it goes back to that notion of preparing yourself. If you know your skills, you know what you bring to the table, you've practiced those interviewing times, you can do it. You may not always be successful, but you are going to be better at finding a job if you've done that research and that practice.
And I think you have to realize that the person interviewing you is pretty smart too. So you can't talk down to them or look down to them or, little lady this. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
It's because they're going to know somebody quality when they see them too, if they are treated with respect as well. I think respect on both sides.
Exactly. And it's so much fun to work with our older adults because all of a sudden the lights go on, just like with kids. All of a sudden light bulbs go on. I can do this. I can do this.
I can do this. You can sell yourself. You can do that.
Just as you're working with the clients at the hospital.
Right.
All of a sudden the light bulb goes on and goes, okay.
Now don't put a scalpel in my hand.
No.
Yeah.
No. I always say I
know my limits.
Yeah, I can fix any mistake because I'm not doing brain surgery. So that's okay. So
well, I think the sooner the generations understand that they can work together, and I'm not saying that it's not happening, but boy, when a millennial recognizes that a mature or a boomer has this value to their new business venture, possibly, and vice versa,
right?
Like your husband. The knowledge base that's in his brain, but technology, the software, or the computer stuff.
Right.
I got to go find somebody to take care of that. So what? Go do it.
And he did learn things. I won't say that everybody did everything for him, but it was a day where everything was a paper file, and he went in and went. So he got tutored and learned some of the basic stuff. But it was really an interesting. It was an interesting phenomenon, but I was really pleased that it worked for everybody because it was beneficial for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think we're walking into a generation that we're not going to see retirees anymore. Don't you think? I think it's some will because of maybe health, or they're just tired.
What do you mean by retirees? Because do you think that
the official definition of retirement,
where they make money,
you're just done. You're done, and you go move to Florida. Mm-hmm. I think we're walking out of that. I wonder what the term's going to be called.
It'll be interesting to see if that really holds true. Because I wonder if there will. Or if they think they want that, and then they do it and realize they don't want
to do it. Right.
I think that will happen because a lot of my friends have been working for many, many years, may have worked more than one job. And now they're all like, I can't wait to retire. I can't wait to retire. But so many people who come in my office say, I've been retired for a year and I hate it. I need to do something. Mm-hmm, so I think we're going to go in that circle. Might need some time away.
Right. That might be the key.
Yeah.
But, do you consider volunteer work a job too? Because I think a lot of folks may not necessarily want or need the money or the stability of a job, but they sure would like to do something and do something that is fulfilling.
Right, exactly. So it's more that notion of engagement, which is what all of the research is saying too. We're going to live much better, longer, healthier lives if we remain engaged with, I don't want to call it a mission. That's probably too strong of a word, but working with organizations and their mission to see an accomplishment, to see our success at helping them, that kind of thing.
I also think, and I don't know if you both agree or not, but there's a lot of people who really do still need to work for money.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure.
And I think that I see that as a real issue going forward because I don't think people may have saved as much as they thought, or the way the economy is, even if they saved, it's just not going to know.
Because of longer life,
right?
And cost of healthcare is and cost of housing, which is something that's really kind of being brought around a lot in Columbus, that housing has just gone through the roof, and there are so many people who are having difficulty. We're located here in Whitehall, and we've had lots of conversations with the economic development team here who've done a phenomenal job of bringing in more business. Well, sort of now another version of that is, how can we do something with the housing stock? Because this is an affordable housing stock. So instead of a young person getting a mega mansion that they can't afford, starting out someplace smaller and working their way up, sort of makes sense. And then those individuals who may have owned the house, the older adults, looking at alternative housing for them. So it's not just a house and then a nursing home. There are other steps in between.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, have you had the opportunity to work with other older adults or be a mentor in this situation?
I've been a mentor to younger people. Okay. I'm trying to think if I've been a mentor to someone older than myself. I don't think so. Okay. But yeah.
The wealth that you bring, wealth of knowledge that you bring for these transitions, somebody needs to, or maybe that's the next venture.
I have helped a couple younger people,
especially coming from broadcast.
One was from broadcast, one wasn't,
because that's a hard transition out.
It is a hard transition.
As we talked about before the recording, that it's kind of one of those when you leave.
So I am a go-to person that people call.
Yes.
Say, how did you do it and what did you do?
Right.
No, I may not, quote, mentor them, meaning follow them for months or years. I may have coffee once or twice with someone to offer and share some ideas. But, I have to say that I am one of these people that figured out something different and I always say to people, part of it is you just have to take the time to think. And like I said, I was walking my dog and that was always my think time, in the morning, 6 a.m., me and the dog. And, you do a lot of thinking, thoughtfulness, spiritual stuff, all that time when you have that time to yourself. And that's when the idea came to me because I obviously was looking for something. And both times it was the end and you're looking for something. And I think if you just look inside yourself, sometimes you will find that passion or that real personal reason or something. But then don't give up on it or don't think I can't do it. you talk to other people or flesh out the idea and say, if this isn't the idea that'll work, how can I make it work? And you know what? People are so helpful because I think you go to them and they take it as, well, somebody wants to talk to me. They must feel like I know something or an important. They're really free with information because, and they want to help you succeed as well. But a lot of it is kind of ego thing. Well, somebody thinks I've got something to offer, so take advantage of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Pick those brains.
It's interesting. I'm just sitting here thinking of all of the former broadcasters here in Central Ohio. For a long time, everybody was moving into some sort of a PR position.
Or real estate, exactly.
Real estate. Now, I don't think I can.
Oh, yeah. I had a feeling it was because they could put their picture on the placard for sale. I'm assuming that
works. That works. But many. I mean, hopefully, Nancy Burton, are you out there listening? I mean, I can remember when Nancy Burton was on the air and has done a phenomenal job with ODOT and really probably was instrumental in them becoming much more visible and communicative with those of us driving through the snow behind the plows. But also some of your other former colleagues are now the moms doing their programs. And I'm like, and it's being inventive.
Yes.
Coming up with what your passion is, where your knowledge base is, but also taking a risk. Entrepreneurism is not what we're all naturally able to do, but small businesses owned by older adults are more successful. That's been proven for decades.
I'm not an entrepreneur. I never had the entrepreneurial spirit, honestly. And when I started the show, Showcase Columbus, that morphed into daytime, it was just me. I did everything because I really didn't want payroll. I really didn't want, and I just wanted it to be my own project. And if it got too big, that's not what I wanted.
Right.
And because I really wasn't looking to make a big business, I was just looking to have a TV show, which was a business. But I would never have thought I had an entrepreneurial spirit in me. But all of a sudden it was like, well, I'm doing something that I really want to do and I like. You look at it that way and all of a sudden you don't feel as scared.
Right.
And here's the big thing. I didn't take a huge financial risk. And I know, especially at that age, and I had children in college and all these other things, it wasn't a time to take a big financial risk. So I'm not sure I would have done it had I not figured out a way not to have a financial risk. But that was part of learning how to do the business. How can I make all these other people pay for my project?
Right. Exactly. Well, and two, we have great resources in Ohio through the state for small business owners. And that's one of the things that we always talk about with clients of, we can get you right into those, to talk to those folks who are going to put you on a good path, because nobody wants you to have to take a huge financial risk or put your family at risk by starting a business. That's for sure.
And starting small is probably the best thing. And then you can decide, is this really what I want to do? Or was this just a pipe dream and it's proving to be just a pipe dream, you know?
Or it's been a nice hobby and I'm going to go to another one. So,
Right.
So Gail, any other words of wisdom for all of those folks out there who are thinking about, I need another step. I need another idea. I want to do something different. I'm retiring off of that and on my way to something else.
I would say that really look into yourself as to what you like to do. When I started the talk show, I realized I wasn't done being creative. I was being true to myself. I had a great job and it was paying well and all those things, but I wasn't being creative and I knew I needed that. So if there's something in your life that you feel like you're lacking, what can you do to make, and how can you make money doing it? Because if you start thinking about it, there are ways, or there are jobs or work at company that I think you might be amazed that your skills could be used for. And that was the truth for the second one as well with Ohio State. But the other thing is to take advantage of folks who are out there who can help you. And, I don't even want to say networking because that always implies, here's my card, It's not like that. It's calling on people that you have worked with and that know you personally. Then they'll put you in touch with somebody else they know personally because it's a personal connection. It's not, I met you at a luncheon, so now you should give me a call. That's not,
I'm linked to you.
Yeah,
right.
I'm linked to you.
Right.
That is not to me what networking is, and that's not what helped me.
Exactly.
What helped me were my friends who introduced me to some of their friends, who introduced me to other friends, and it just kind of worked its way around until I really found everything I needed to know through personal contact.
We are powerful We have been powerful in our jobs for a long time. And I think that that's what you're showing people is that you, with that kind of work and thought and take those experiences and continue to be powerful.
My one sister said to me, she goes, well, I've been so lucky. And I'm like, hey, there's always a little bit of luck, but I've worked hard. And she goes, oh, I know that. I just had to say that you've been lucky. I'm like,
no, it is hard work. It is hard work. I said every day, employment for seniors is a challenge, but it's a fun challenge. Doesn't make it an easy challenge, but it's a fun challenge. So thank you so much for being with us today. It was wonderful to see you again. And hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Good.
Wonderful.
So.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Successful Encore Career Podcast, presented by Employment for Seniors and sponsored by Central Ohio Area Agency on Aging, Nationwide Insurance, and InnoSource. This podcast is available on our website, employseniors.org, as well as Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Podbean, YouTube, or your favorite podcast player. To help us defray the cost of producing the podcast, consider donating to Employment for Seniors. Go to employseniors.org and click on the Donate Now button. Any amount is appreciated, and we'll make sure we thank you for your support in an upcoming podcast episode.
Employment for Seniors is the premier resource linking mature adults with employment opportunities. If you are 50 years of age or older and living in Central Ohio, we are here to help you find employment. And Central Ohio employers, our mature, talented, skilled, and dependable job seekers will provide significant value to your organization. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. Or if you have a topic or an interview idea, let us know. Send us an email at podcast@employseniors.org.
Circle270Media.com